Greetings, my name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates and licensed presenters and the Core New Core and my patrons and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor or student. Just 3 things on my list today. And the title is, What Do You Have That Others Don't? And maybe that's just not politically correct to point out distinctions, but as a Pilates instructor sending a person into the cave of their own experience, it's in the belief that, and the knowledge that, things are discernible sensationally, perhaps not crystal clear, and perhaps over a given period of time, but okay. The purpose of this broadcast is to give you knowledge of an explanation. I keep backing up to the word knowledge as what I'm trying to convey in this broadcast, and it's a knowledge about the 2 things you've heard me talk about over and over again, CT and MMP. And MMP is a point of view of Pilates that's just one among millions, because everybody really makes what they make of Pilates is more what is constructed within their own simulation of their understanding of the word. For all of us, me, you, human beings, human nature. But in MMP says Pilates is an experience. One point of view, but within MMP, Pilates is an experience. Okay? And just that you heard that, and it's now knowledge to you that someone believes that Pilates is an experience. And that furthermore, more knowledge is that that experience can be explained within the MMP point of view, and it's one view out of millions. But it's quite a point of view that is meant to assist you as a student of Pilates. So you have knowledge of an explanation. Number 2, surviving is serious. Or perhaps surviving exists on a spectrum of serious. Like, how serious are you about surviving? Or thriving? To what extent do you embrace choices now as to what you think and do, and that to influence your future? So, to what extent do you prepare for the future? To what extent do you get ready for the future? Because Pilates is about preparation. Pilates is a routine that develops your readiness to respond to whatever comes up. Acknowledging, for one thing, that you don't know what's coming up, and acknowledging another in that either prior experience through previous generations or through personal experience, you discover that preparation can influence outcome. or surviving. And so when it comes to Pilates, Joseph Pilates was a survivor. His method is survival training. And to the extent that you can find the experience in pursuit of the performance, to me that's like doing Pilates, that helps you survive. Because no matter what your circumstance is, even if you're in a straitjacket and tied down to a bed and you can't move in your body, if you know Pilates, meaning if you know what the exercises are and the sequentiality of them, and you could do it in your mind as a mental exercise. You know what I'm saying? Knowing that there is order or significance to the order, knowing that there is an attempt to completely concentrate on the purpose of the exercises as you perform them. So I guess that takes me to number 3. Be able to get there on your own. So what do I mean by that? Be able to get there on your own. Where is there? Well, there is the experience. What is the experience? The complete coordination of being, thinking, and observing. What does that mean? Well, your body, your prefrontal cortex, and your amygdala hippocampal areas of the brain. The distinction between your prefrontal cortex as thinking and the other parts of your brain as feeding information into that thinking process on what's going on out there beyond the body, beyond the being. You know, the sensors. And then so being able to get there on your own means that when you need to or want to or feel like it, you can hit the mat and start moving. And if it's Pilates, it's generally starts with an exercise and then has some kind of progression in where you go from exercise to exercise in a flow, right? When you go down there and start that, the whole focus of attention, the whole concentrating on the purposes of the exercises as you do them, is helping you pull yourself together as a human being to where you're coordinated in your being, your thinking, and your observing. So when you do Pilates to the point that you do it and only be told what to do, okay, is different than having a practice on your own where, even if it's with a list by your side, that you are in pursuit of learning and performing on your own without needing the card. It's just like the alphabet. Can you go from A to Z right now on your own? Probably, right? And the fact that there is an A to Z means there is an order, and from that order, so much else comes. And then my note was being a student, but in terms of being a student, learning, right? Learning. For all that you know and what you know is uniquely yours, and a creation that you extend out into the world. You share your life, right? We all do. So, in terms of what is the target, what are we aiming for? Control. How do we hit it? Or how do we get it? How do we develop it? Right? Through complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. MMP says being, thinking, and observing. And just makes those words part of what's in every human being. You got a body, they've got a brain that has one part and a brain that has another part. And in MMP, thinking is prefrontal cortex and observing is amygdala hippocampus. Meaning information that comes into thinking from out there beyond thinking. That's why it's not body, mind, and more mind. It's body, mind, and something else. And the something else beyond that is what you take in to the thinking or coordinate with the thinking from what you're sensing in the outside world. So very practically speaking, it's been a while since I've said this, I think. There you are, you're the teacher, you come up to your student, and what do you want to do? And of course, all the polite and tact is to say, well, you're the teacher, I'll let you decide. And I say, okay. And I say, let's do the mat. And before I've transferred my weight from the standing foot to the foot headed toward the mats, before then, someone usually has something to say about, well, I just did the mat, or I'm doing the mat tomorrow, or anything that gives some other direction than to just working out in gravity alone. Because that's really hard to do compared to entertaining the dynamic of the apparatus that has springs involved. The seduction in Pilates is the interaction with the springs. The Pilates instructor, at least I think a Pilates instructor, recognizes that all of that exterior tension, acts as support and sensation of alignment, kind of feeds, but all of that tension from the outside is meant to help a student get connected to how to make tension within themselves to where the springs don't matter. And that's why the mat matters, because the mat is the practice. The mat is the choreography. And being able to do the mat well indicates that you can accomplish what you get to more easily and experience more dynamically within artificial tension, but not the aim of the target. The target is doing the mat, and the mat is tough and nowhere near as much fun as the reformer or the chair or anything on the Cadillac or the pedal pole or just give me springs however. the toe corrector or the head corrector or anything. Intention, the magic circle, right? To me, it's the knowledge that you have in understanding the dynamics of core new tension that gives you perspective on how you use any kind of tension outside of the body, springs, circles, ropes, and then non-tension things like static things like blocks, right? All to do what? All to empower the body to be able to engage in core new tension, because that's the most efficient way it takes on its own load in space to move through space. Which has a lot to say about surviving, both in the moment and long term. And so when I see in my age in 2019, as is always, there's always political turmoil and angst and uncertainty about the future on a lot of things you have no control over. And there's the key word, control. So in the worst of situations, when you really have so little control over anything else, if you can engage in the mat, not only are you conditioning your body, of course, but you're working on developing more coordination between your being, thinking, and observing. And in so doing, escaping frenetic thinking and finding focus in the purpose of your movement. You engage in your routine, you do what you're familiar with. So when I greeted my client, who I'd known, I'm visiting out of country, and this client is a young male owner of his own bank in the land of banking. And when I greeted him for his lesson, I took on the air of an official who was arresting him and taking him into the studio, but taking him to jail. And within the studio, by using mats, I arranged how big the space would be for like a 3x6 cell. And then I explained the circumstance to him, and he's having a great time indulging in this theater, because here I am acting now as a Pilates instructor, and I say, okay, here you are. What do you do? And so he says, well, I need a mat, not just be able to work on the hard floor. It's like, okay, I'll give you that. But then within the floor, he's talking about rolling like a ball and other rolling things that need a mat. But the point being that when you're incarcerated or you're limited in space, or you're totally stressed out, maybe you're just being able to do the mat is the point. Because in knowing the letters of the alphabet and what order they come in, and saying them, even if it's in your own head, by that I'm talking about doing the Pilates mat exercises in the order that you know them in, that you can do. Right? They don't have to be every exercise. I'm trying to point too that if Pilates is about surviving, and surviving is a very serious situation, then the more serious you are about it, I would encourage you to know Pilates well enough to be able to go on the floor and start moving and finding and reaching for the complete coordination of being, thinking, and observing. And that doesn't mean you do that over 20 or 30 minutes. That means it might just be one exercise. What you're looking for is the experience of the coordination of those three capacities. And it's MMP that says there's an experience involved. You may not believe that or think that or choose to disbelieve that, or I'm just one point of view out of everyone that's ever heard the word that now is the mother of 10,000 points of view. When I say know what you know, it's the knowledge. That is so special to me, and I hope you find it special to you as well. Because life can't live forever. Read between the lines and see behind the curtain. Connect the dots. Evaluate points of view. And then add 2 and 2, right? Practice. Be a presenter first. I have a presentation I can make for $2 that takes 2 minutes. And if they want to hear the whole presentation without paying $2, that's up to you. But see, as I see it, your effort is to facilitate their ability to find the value that you have to offer by coming up with a value in exchange for it. Consider it tribal custom, especially between cultures. Direct your own thinking. Geist.